They say comparison is the thief of joy. But what if I told you that comparison might not be the enemy that you think it is? Leaders Aware, welcome back to the Leaders Aware podcast. I'm your host, Alfonzo Jones, and as always, I'm grateful and honored that you have chosen to invest in your life, in your leadership, and to invest this time with me. So we're getting right into this comparison thing, because I'm sure you've heard it. I've heard it. Not only have I heard it, but I use it. Comparison is the thief of joy. I've told my kids that a lot of times. But are we giving comparison a bad rap? I kind of feel sorry for the word because it gets a lot on the negative side. And let me tell you when this hit me. I was in the market for some extended warranty for one of my vehicles. So I wanted to call around to get some, find out who would be the best. And I was on the phone with a young lady. She was telling about all the perks, giving me all the details. And as we were getting to the end of the conversation, I quickly realized that she was not going to let me get off the phone until I made a decision to choose this company. So as we were going back and forth, I made a statement to her and I said, I was just calling around to compare prices. And when I said that, it struck something in me. And after I got off the phone, I was like, we always talk about comparison being the thief of joy, but comparison is actually necessary. Don't you compare prices? Do you compare prices? Compare the best deals, compare the best products. I do. So how can we use this comparison thing as a catalyst to our greatest development, to our success in this journey, instead of just labeling it as the thief of joy, which it can be? But how do you focus your comparison? How do you use your comparison? I'll give you this example. Water can kill or it can heal. You've heard of the floods. You can get in the pool and drown. But also, you can drink a cup of water. You can wash with water. So it's not the element in and of itself, it's how it's being used and what is happening with it. Our bodies do it. Our bodies make decisions every day. I learned about the epiglottis this week. The epiglottis is a little flap in our throat that when we drink and or eat, makes sure that the food and liquid is directed to our stomach instead of down our windpipe. So our bodies make decisions about where things go, but our mind oftentimes does not do the same thing. We have to train it. So today we're going to train our brain how to use comparison, because the question for you is, are you using comparison in a way that drains you or sustains you? So let's get into it. So we all know that, again, I'm not saying that comparison is not a thief of joy, because it can be. When we use comparison in a toxic way, we do three things. It's the external validation trap. We're looking at and measuring others in a way that leads us to believe that we're not enough. So we're looking outside at somebody and saying, you know what, because they do this, this, and this, I am not enough. This is the external validation trap. We're looking at people on the outside. And the external validation trap is oftentimes coupled with the social media illusion. Now, granted, social media is an amazing tool, but sometimes you got to figure out how to use this tool correctly for you. So with the social media illusion, we're measuring, or we're seeing curated reels, the highlight reels that make us feel like we're behind. But here's the thing with highlight reels. let's use sports for an example. Oftentimes, high school, definitely in the professional setting, college, players will have what they call highlight reels. A highlight reel is basically all the great shots or the shots that were made or the crossovers that were done, all compiled into one video. And if you leave it to the highlight reel, you'll think that this player has never missed a shot. But oftentimes we look at these reels and we measure the highlight reel to our behind the scenes reel. And the truth of the matter is, everybody has a behind the scenes reel. Speaking of behind the scenes reel, which you did not see, I started this podcast about maybe an hour ago. And as I was recording, my microphone slipped off the stand, fell on the floor while I was talking. This is the behind the scenes type stuff that we don't see, but we look at people, and because they produce a curated product, in which they should, but we cannot be ignorant of the fact that the product that we see took some type of work and some type of failure. So I need you to start looking through the lens of reality instead of the illusion of, hey, because this is a highlight reel, it means they have it all together. And that's not true. Because when we do that, it causes us to get in a state of paralysis and self-doubt. And this is where we just stop taking action. Like, okay, they got it together. I don't. Clearly there's something wrong with me. And so I'm just not going to do anything. Not going to do anything else. I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to let the professionals do what the professionals do, and I'm going to sit back and just be a bystander. We can't do that, especially as leaders. Now, this topic that we're discussing today, it kind of speaks to the roots of who we are. As always, Leaders Aware podcast is about being a leader, but you also have to know that leadership starts with you leading you. So in this comparison thing, it will help you as a leader, because when you are aware of this external validation trap, when you're aware of the social media illusion, or not just social media, let's just look at the people around us, right? When we're aware of these things and we're able to use comparison as a tool in these things, it helps us eliminate paralysis and self-doubt. And when we can eliminate paralysis and self-doubt, that means we're getting things done now. And now that we're getting things done, we're making moves. And now that we're making moves, we have a greater spectrum of influence. I just had to tie that into leadership, if anybody was just wondering. But you know what we do. This is the Leaders Aware podcast. So we talk about those three things: the external validation trap, the social media illusion, and how that leads to paralysis and self-doubt. So these things can have an emotional and mental toll on us as individuals. Resentment, low self-esteem, burnout, because we're trying to keep up. And this is why we have to identify these things, because once we can identify them, then we know how to move different. So we want to make sure that we don't get in that state of resentment or low self-worth or burnout. And then instead of progress, now we're feeling the pressure of perfection. And perfection is not a destination. It's a journey. So where and when you compare yourself to others, you're measuring their results and not their journey. That's what I want you to take away, a takeaway right now. When you measure yourself to others, you measure their results instead of their journey. So if you were to measure journey to journey, you may see a very different picture. So I needed to be a trigger for you, just like the epiglottis. As we look at people, I see the result, I'm seeing the highlight, but I don't see the journey, so I can't compare correctly. It's not accurate. So I need you to always think about that. If you feel yourself going down that trap, sinking into that illusion, you have to remember results versus the journey. If you don't know the journey, you can't properly analyze the result in comparison. So how do we make comparison our greatest asset? So this is how we do this. Instead of asking, how do I measure to them? How do I measure up to them? You ask yourself, how do I measure up to the best version of myself? We're turning it inward. We're doing a self-comparison. That is the key. That is the cheat code. It's self-comparison. I have a little sticky note in my car that I write little messages on just so I can remember things myself. And one of them says, you versus you, period. And every time I get out of the car, I remember that. I see that. You versus you, period. So you have to create a benchmark mindset with that in mind. So you have to compare yourself to who you were yesterday, last year, or even at the lowest. And when you compare yourself to those elements, you'll be able to see how you've grown. And again, these are the way we make comparison become our greatest asset. We measure ourselves against the best version of ourselves. Well, this is where we're comparing. This is where I want to be. So this is how I'm measuring up. And then we use benchmarks. Where was I last year? Where was I yesterday? Where was I at my lowest compared to where I am now? Man, I've grown. You've grown. And then the small improvements over time lead to massive results. There's a Chinese proverb that says, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And oftentimes we don't give ourselves credit for the one step, the one step, the one step, the one step, the next step, the next step. We want to take great leaps and bounds because we feel like it is possible just to take one giant leap and be there. Every journey begins with one step. And to be honest, after that step is taken, guess what you have to do now? Take one more step. So life ultimately is just a culmination of one steps. One steps. Just take one step. And if you compare your step to the next step, did I take a step today? Comparison. Did I take a step today? If the answer is yes, guess what? That was a positive result. This is how we begin to let comparison become an asset that shifts the very nature of our lives. And we have to do it. And actually there's joy in competing with yourself because you know you. You know yourself. You don't know anybody else the way you think you do because nobody really shows their behind the scenes script. Nobody expresses how they're feeling mentally and emotionally and physically, and the times they're crying in rooms or all of the doubts or paralysis that they even experience. But you know you like nobody else in the world. So when you are able to celebrate you for the momentum, for the steps, for the results that you're making, it creates motivation, momentum, self-confidence. And that's what we need. And this is why you have to compete with yourself. Then you can also see that every setback is a lesson and not just a reason to quit. Every time you have a setback, learn from it. Let's compare notes. What did I do? What did I do wrong here? Setbacks are not reasons to quit. We're competing with ourselves, but we're not quitting because we're going to keep on going. Every day I have a breath is another day that I have to grow. Every day that you have a breath is another day that you have to grow. I want you to think about this statement. The only real competition is between you, who you are, and who you are becoming. Let me say that again. The only real competition is between who you are and who you are becoming. Now, the key to a statement like this is knowing who you're becoming. And leaders aware, I want to let you know I'm working on something for you. Don't worry. I'm working on something for you. Because I believe that many of us don't know who we're becoming. We don't know who we are. And that's why comparison is the thief of joy. Because we are using other people as the standard. And when we use other people as a standard that doesn't necessarily fit our mold, now we're depressed. We do have low self-worth and low self-esteem. Because we're not comparing apples to apples, if that makes sense. I saw this clip, a nature clip. I like looking at nature clips, animals, things of that nature. I think it's very fascinating. The giraffe, when it gives birth, y'all know a giraffe, very tall. The baby falls 6 feet to the ground. Boom. What? Falls 6 feet to the ground. Coming out of the mother's womb. And it survives. And this is the first experience of the giraffe. And then it goes on to, the giraffe nurtures this baby and they teach it stuff and it travels with it. However, I also learned that the chameleon, some species, not all, they have live births. Others lay eggs, but there's this one that gives live births, and when it delivers the baby, 1 minute after the baby is born, it is able to fend for itself. What? That is crazy to me. The giraffe drops 6 feet, boom, survives, and is nurtured by the mother for the next 6 months to a year before it goes off to on its own. But this chameleon can be born, and 1 minute after it's born, can fend for itself? How does that work? How is that possible? Guess what? I don't know. But here's the thing. What if the giraffe compared itself to the chameleon and said, hey, I'm 1 minute old. I need to go hunt for myself. That's not going to work. Different molds. Or what if the chameleon says, wow, that's a large drop. I wonder if I can do that. And just falls to the ground. 6 feet? Nah, ain't working, buddy. That will be the end of his life. I use this example just to show that when we compare ourselves to people who are not us, fully not, granted, you may have some characteristics that are the same. I get it. But you are a special mold. So that's why it's important that you know who you are so you can know who you're becoming, and now you can compete against you and find the joy in competing against you. hope that makes sense to you, leaders. And again, like I told you, I got something coming for you that's going to help you with all this. Just stay tuned. So let me give you some practical strategies on how to make comparison work for you. Okay, there's going to be 4 of them. You know, I normally like to do things in threes, but I'm going to give you a bonus today. Well, I may even give you 5. So practical strategies of how to make comparison work for you. Let's do number 1. Audit your inputs. How do you do that? Limit social media that triggers comparison, negative comparison, okay? Limit the social media that triggers negative comparisons. I'm going to throw myself out here, okay? I had to get off social media for a moment. It was actually a long moment, to be honest. Why? Because I started getting stuck in the social media illusion, in that comparison trap, that external validation trap. And it was affecting me. and I realized it. So once I realized it, I knew that I had to pull back. Okay, that's a behind the scene reel right there for you. I had to pull back. So you have to audit your inputs. These are things that are triggering you. If you know you're getting triggered, stop. Just stop doing it. Even now, like I said, I pull back from social media. However, even now, as I am on social media, 90% of the time, I'm going to post and I'm jumping off. Just so I don't get stuck. Because when you know how we are as humans, our minds just start spiraling. And one thing leads to another. You're thinking about this, well, what about that? And I don't do this, and I can't do this. Well, I got to get off as I strengthen my mind. And it's getting strengthened every day. Set personal benchmarks. Track the progress based on your own journey. You know what you're doing. You know the speed at which you can do it and how you can do it. So set personal benchmarks. When I started this podcast, I gave myself 1 month. I said, I'm going to do it in 1 month. So guess what? Now that I had that benchmark out there, I didn't have any pressure to get it done in 2 weeks or 3 weeks because I set the benchmark 1 month. And if I don't get it done in a month, now I have some issues. But until then, I know each day I'm taking that one step. So audit your input, set personal benchmarks. Number 3, reframe comparison. So instead of envy, ask this: what can I learn from them? Say it with me, leaders. What can I learn from them? When you feel that trigger, ask a question. Now we know by default it's you versus you, it's me versus me. But when I'm seeing somebody that may be in my lane, and they may be doing it well, I can ask myself, what can I learn from them? Not how am I so far behind them, but what can I learn? So we're reframing that comparison. We're using that proverbial epiglottis and changing that comparison to a learning opportunity, a development opportunity. Number 4, celebrate the small wins. When you accomplish something, celebrate it, no matter how small it is. I said that I was going to write 3 pages of content today. Did I do it? Yes. Celebrate. We did it. No matter what it is, if you set a benchmark, you will be able to celebrate it. So benchmarks actually set you up for celebration. How about that? Benchmarks set you up for celebration. So that way you can celebrate the small wins. I believe that many of us don't have the celebrations because we don't have the benchmarks in place. We don't have the goal set. So you've done well. You've done a lot of things well. You just don't know it. And because you don't know it, you don't have the time to celebrate it. Because if you were able to celebrate it and know it, guess what it would do? It would increase motivation, momentum, and self-confidence. So that's why these things are necessary. Celebrate those wins. And number 5, I told you I'm going to give you 2 bonuses. Surround yourself with growth-minded people. Because healthy environments encourage self-improvement. Surround yourself with growth-minded people. I think I've said this already, but for me, one of the most transformative things that has happened to me as a businessman, as it relates to my craft, what I do now as far as developing leaders, doing trainings and workshops, it was when I joined the John Maxwell team. And this is not a plug for them. However, I joined the team. It was a group of people that all had common goals. They were growth-minded. And they actually helped me get to where I am right now. Because I was surrounded with them. It was encouragement. It was, again, like-minded people. They're doing the same thing, having some of the same struggles. We're talking about it. I'm getting to see behind the scenes. And in seeing that and being around that, it helped me step up. It helped me improve. So even if you don't have the people around you, find a group. Maybe there's a community. And even what you're doing right now, you're listening to the Leaders Aware podcast. You're getting information. I'm improving daily, and you're going to be improving daily as well. So hopefully you have this. You can click the bell, subscribe, whatever, so you can make sure you get the information whenever it comes. But surrounding yourself with people is probably another one of the cheat codes. So again, what are the strategies? What are the practical tools? Audit your input. Set personal benchmarks. Reframe the comparison. Celebrate those small wins and surround yourself with growth-minded people. Because we're doing this, guys and ladies, leaders all over the world, everywhere. Comparison will no longer be a thief for us. Comparison now will forever be a teacher. Comparison will no longer be a thief for us because we're Leaders Aware. Comparison will forever be a teacher. Why? Because we know how to focus our comparison. I'm ready. I'm ready to see how this works for you. And I'm telling you, it will work. If you have to listen to this again, please do. Listen to it again so you can get it burned in your mind. And we're going to make this thing happen. We are training new muscles. And because we're training these new muscles, it's going to take us to new places. I really believe that. I really believe that with all my heart. So I want you to reflect on this week how comparison has impacted you and how can you start using it to fuel your growth. How has it impacted you? Because reflection is necessary, okay? How has it impacted you? How has comparison impacted you? And now how can you start letting it be a fuel for your growth. I want to hear about it. Let me know. You know where to find me. I want you to share your stories with me as we have this dialogue, because as we do this, we're improving daily. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, even on Apple Music, all these avenues, reach out to me, Alfonzo Jones, #2. Let me know how you're doing with that, because comparison can be devastating, and I'm sure it has been devastating for a lot of you. But I'm so excited about the new transforming power that you have now discovered in comparison that is going to catapult you to new heights. I'm so excited. Leaders, I love you. I'm proud of you. I'm so excited about what's next for you. We are now aware that comparison is a teacher, and because we are aware, we make the adjustments, we do better. Leaders, let's apply this information. I appreciate you as always, and I'll see you next time.